Hey everybody, Mr. Thompson here, and today I want to talk a little bit further about the 5 modern forms of government we see identified by National Geographic. The first one mentioned is democracy. Democracy is a government where representatives are elected by citizens. And in a democracy, you might also have citizens vote directly on laws themselves. Otherwise, government representatives are usually the ones who would then create the laws, create systems for judges, and the laws to be kept and to be updated and to be maintained. All of this is being done by people who are voted on by the citizens, meaning that those government officials really need to work for the people, because if the people don't like them, they could always vote for someone else. The United States would be a great example of a representative democracy, or sometimes called a republic. This means we're voting on both. We're voting on representative government officials to run the government for us, but we also get to vote on laws, especially at our more local level. The second form of government we read about is a monarchy. A monarchy is a government that is run by a king or a queen. Now, what makes a monarchy unique is usually that one ruler with all the power, the king or the queen, typically inherits that role because it's within their family. So when a king or queen dies in a monarchy, typically the next ruler is going to be someone in their immediate family. Now, a monarchy can have varying amounts of power. If you're what's called a constitutional monarch, you share some of your ruling power with a type of democratic government. If you're an absolute monarch, you control everything. You set the laws, you create the laws, you run the country, and citizens within your country have little to no say about it. The United Kingdom would be an example of a constitutional monarch. You have old Queen Elizabeth over there, but there's also a prime minister, as well as government officials voted by the people. Or you could have Saudi Arabia, an absolute monarch, where the ruling family really has the most influence and control over just about everything within the country. But really, overall, whether you are constitutional or absolute, it is definitely good to be the king.
It's good to be the king.
Now, our next one is a dictatorship. A dictatorship is also a government where you have one single ruler. But unlike a monarchy, a dictator is usually someone who comes to power, often through another form of government, and then they are able to consolidate or take all the control for themselves. Dictators often take freedoms and take government controls away from citizens and other people and suppresses their rights or takes their rights away as well. A dictator's control can be over all, if not many, aspects of a citizen's life, meaning you have very little freedom, not only in government, but maybe in how you act, in your jobs, in how you spend your money, in how you live your life. North Korea would be an example of a dictatorship. In North Korea, you are not going to want to speak poorly about the dictator. You're not going to want to go against your leader's commands, because if they hear you, they might pop right up and throw you in prison. Our next form of government is communism. Communism is a command economy. If you remember, a command economy is where the government basically owns all of the markets. And so under communism, you have a command economy where all property and markets are controlled by the government. They decide what gets made, how things get made, what gets sold, what prices, what people can buy, what they can't buy, and really kind of takes care of all decision making for the people. This means citizens have very little, if any, freedoms under communism. Communism is a system of government where the government steps in and decides everything for its people. This can be a problem because if the government doesn't make the right choices for its people, it can be very oppressive, meaning very hard for citizens to live under this kind of system. Cuba and China, to varying amounts, both have a communist type of government in our modern world. And then our final of the 5 major government forms is called an oligarchy. An oligarchy is a government ruled by a small group of people, often coming from the very wealthy elite or those in top military positions. So this is a government where you don't have one person in control, but you have a small group. And that group is usually those who live at the top of society. They have the power, and it means citizens usually have little to no power. Basically, the wealthier you are, or the more military connections you have, the more influence and power you have within this type of system's government. A modern oligarchy would be the Asian country of Myanmar. Now, an oligarchy, though, as a system, many people can look around their own countries and wonder to what degree they might have an oligarchy as well. There is an argument here in America that people who are more wealthy tend to have access to more political power than those who are not so wealthy. And some make the argument that nations like the United Kingdom, like America, like Russia, also have a certain level of oligarchy in them as well. But out of our National Geographic, these are the 5 major types of governments we see in our world today. If you look at them, you can see examples around the world, and you can see how varying degrees of these different governments are present, not only in our own country, but in other countries we are maybe aware of. So some good information as we are moving forward to see how governments have an important role in not only defining citizen rights and responsibilities within a country, but also demonstrating the amount of power, influence that citizens can have. So hope you found this helpful, guys, and I will be talking to you later. Take care.